Welcome back to Is It Still Good, the channel where we watch older films and see if they still hold up. Today, we're going to get into one of my favorite comedy horror films of all time. But first, let's try to sell a book. And we're back! So hopefully we sold a book, and just to let you guys know, I'll be uploading as frequently as I can, just to get my watch hours up with YouTube. Okay, The Burbs, 1989. This movie came out, rated PG. It's a comedy horror film, runs 1 hour 41 minutes, directed by Joe Dante, who did Gremlins 1 and 2. Really does have a similar feel, by the way, which is fun. Stars Tom Hanks, Bruce Dern, and Carrie Fisher. Rick Document's also in it. He passed away in 2015, may he rest in peace. And Corey Feldman. Music by Jerry Goldsmith is tonally perfect, in my opinion, and is a lot of fun. Really helps sell the movie to me and really just kind of keeps everything where it's supposed to be, as in funny with horror elements, right? .8 out of 10 on IMDb, and interestingly enough, on Rotten Tomatoes, only 53%, but I don't put a lot of stock in Rotten Tomatoes, and neither do you guys, so I just report that so you know. Don't judge the movie based on Rotten Tomatoes. They don't know what's going on over there, I don't think. The scores are all wacky. Okay, this movie actually has a lot of fun trivia behind it, too. It was loosely inspired by true events when one of the writers noticed that his neighbors were weird and didn't take care of their lawn, and that sort of spawned this whole idea of these murderous neighbors that were reclusive and, in the suburbs, and, a group of people would have to confront them about this, right? So a lot of fun there. Queenie, the dog, actually has a more impressive resume than most actors. She was also in Silence of the Lambs. That's kind of neat. So she was in Silence of the Lambs, The Burbs, and I think a few other films. What a career for a dog. It was all shot in one location, which made things nice and easy, and it wrapped up neatly. It was shot during a writer's strike, by the way, so much of the lines, especially by Tom Hanks, were improvised, and I think that really lends to a very organic, natural feel to this film. Michael Jackson had a monkey named Bubbles that was banned from the set because he was hanging out in Corey Feldman's trailer, and I don't know what he did to get banned, but either way, I thought that was hilarious. Several alternative endings were shot, and I'm just really grateful it ended up the way it did, because they had things like dead cheerleaders in the trunk of the car and or the garbage men from earlier in the film. That would have been horrific and probably hardened the rating. I'm really glad it's PG. I think it's a good PG, possibly even a PG-13. I'm cool with it. And I like that this is kind of like a softer film. Tom Hanks is really, really good in this. He almost turned it down because he had to play a dad in it, and he was only 31, and he thought it might stunt his career. But I'm glad he picked it. Bruce Dern, who most recently I saw in The Hateful Eight, Tarantino's Hateful Eight, is my favorite in this film. He's hilarious. I thought he was great. The Burbs is actually my favorite horror comedy ever, even above Shaun of the Dead and, a few others come to mind, but this is my favorite horror comedy. I think it gets it just right. It's so campy and cheesy. This movie's actually one of the inspirations for the channel, because I didn't see it for a while, and then I went back and I had a great time with it, and I thought, there should be a YouTube channel for older films, because there's so many and there's so much to talk about, and all YouTube ever does is talk about new movies, and I'm kind of checked out from a lot of newer films. I don't think that most new films have any soul. I think CGI is junk in most cases. Actors emoting to a tennis ball doesn't really seem to translate very well, and I don't know. I don't know what happened to movies, the dumbing down of film, but there just seems to be this golden age for me anyway of the 80s and 90s of just so many amazing movies. I figured I could talk about an older movie every weekend for a long, long time and not run out of them. So I'm starting to think that this channel may be essential in preserving what we all love, especially those of us over 40. I'm 42. About our childhood and the films that moved us and the stories that shaped the people we are today. It's actually a little bit more serious than it sounds. It's kind of like a lot of fatherless kids kind of learn how to be a man from watching Luke Skywalker and Indiana Jones, and I don't know, these movies mean more to us than just simple entertainment. They were a moral compass in many cases. They were a hypothetical for what we would do in the same scenarios. And when you have to think in terms of what would I do in this character's shoes, when life throws some curveballs at you, sometimes that stuff comes in handy that you already pre-thought this out, right? So, off my soapbox, but to me, The Burbs is like just a piece of my childhood that I don't ever want to let go away. Even if I became disenchanted with the film and it's a little goofy in parts, which it certainly is, by the way. It's just like a real good stress reliever for me. It's a goofy film, like I said, but it also brings up some good points. Like, what if you suspected something really terrible was going on and you weren't really able to go to the police about it, or they weren't really willing to help? Would you be the one to confront whatever, evil you think is going on, and or how would you go about it? And although The Burbs is a super goofy film, that's an interesting question. Would you just turn the other cheek and just kind of be like, all right, I don't see that, put the blinders on? Or would you put yourself at risk to get to the bottom of whatever? So I like that. I do like that about this. Tom Hanks is awesome in this, by the way.
Look at me! I'm a shell of a man because of you, Art. Now! Soldier!
He's just really cool. Bruce Dern is my favorite, but I think Tom Hanks just acts his butt off. He's improvising for most of it because this was shot during a writer's strike, all in one location, by the way. So a lot of improv, and according to those on the set, this film just kind of came together, I think because it was lighthearted. Everybody was just having fun. Their guards were down. They were able to try new things in improv, and it really paid off. Several alternative endings were shot, and some of them were really dark, like dead cheerleaders in the trunk of the car, and or the garbage men from earlier in the film were now the victims. Like, bleh. I'm really happy it turned out the way it did. It's a PG film. It's pretty soft. It's pretty easy. You can watch this with a kid. It's fun. And I think this is my favorite horror comedy of all time, even above like Shaun of the Dead. I don't know, like there's just something about this that's like, it's not scary at all. It never is at any moment, but it does take place in a darker tone, but it's really funny. Like there's a lot of really funny moments in this movie that make me like bust out laughing. The part where Bruce Dern's character Rumsfeld is distracted and slips and falls off the roof of his house, firing his gun into the window of a car, still gets me every time.
Yo, Rumsfeld! Awesome!
There's a ton of physical comedy in this, especially with Tom Hanks. He really like shows his chops. I mean, almost in like a Bruce Campbell type of way. This guy, at least when he was younger, could really like handle physical comedy. He had some chops. It was hilarious. I miss Carrie Fisher big time. She was a great presence in this movie. She has great chemistry with Tom Hanks. The kid is awesome. The kid actually was nominated for an award or won an award for like Best Young Actor. I don't know which award, but he's excellent. The kid's actually very good in this. Corey Feldman's okay, but he's Corey Feldman. It's very Corey Feldman. He's just quintessential 80s Feldman. And I think this is the perfect Halloween film for earlier in the day. If you're going to have a Halloween movie marathon, I would put this on while it was still light out. And I think this would be a great one, like while you're getting the house ready for guests or getting all your candies ready or your outfits. Throw The Burbs on. I think it's perfect. I'm constantly reminded of how suburbs in the 80s used to be and how, like everybody's pantries were just filled with food. People seemed to have more money. It just seemed a little lighthearted when I was a kid. Maybe that's through the lens of me being a kid. But I don't know, like this neighborhood that this takes place in, it kind of makes me sad. I haven't seen that kind of like soft living in a while, Although I do live in a nice quiet place now, it just kind of made me homesick for the 80s, I'll tell you that. The Rumsfelds are like relationship goals, and they kind of remind me of my lady and I. She's a little bit younger than I am, and we sort of have a similar dynamic, which is really cute. So every time I see them together, I sort of think about my chick and I. The small details in this movie get me. It's not a very clever movie at all. However, the things that aren't spoken about and the subtle details are very clever. And that's a really nice contrast. That those two work really well together, where you tell a very simple story, and when you're between the lines, you can be as clever as you want. And I love that. The ending is incredible. Tom Hanks kills it. He's got an awesome monologue. It's super fun. There was a clip of Mr. Rogers in it, which was interesting because Tom Hanks plays Mr. Rogers later in life. That was cool. And like I said in the title, The Burbs is always good for a laugh.
Let's go, Doc. Hey! Pinocchio! Where are you going?
Period. I always get a laugh out of The Burbs. It's a cute movie. It's adorable. It's the only way I can put it. Are you going to like The Burbs? I don't know, guys. I think it's a coin flip. I think you might think it's stupid. I've showed it to people that were like, meh, it's okay. And there are parts of it that seem to drag on. It can be a bit campy, but I really love that. Like, that's what I like about it. I mean, I don't know. This is a good movie to watch when you're depressed. It's hard to be depressed when you're watching The Burbs. It's fun. It's fun. I think it's a fun movie. So this is my channel, right? And you guys want to know my opinion, and you like your numeric ratings. So what do I give The Burbs? Well, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. For real. I think that's perfect. Maybe a 7 out of 10. I just have a soft spot for this film, so maybe that's where that 0.5 is creeping in. But for my money, The Burbs is pretty good. Now, I don't know what's next for the channel. I don't know what the next video I'm going to do is, but I'm going to thumb around Netflix. I'm going to find something, and I'm going to pump them out, as I've been doing it, and get those watch hours up. Guys, share these videos on social media. Share them with friends. Let's get this channel growed up. I think it would help everybody out a lot. Join the discussion below. I learned so much from you guys about RoboCop, Predator, The Hunt for Red October so far. You guys are teaching me so much. I actually think I will be a film buff in enough time of doing these videos, right? So thank you so much. Thank you for purchasing my books. Like I said, pick them up at your local bookstore. That's the best way to read my stuff. Find me on Instagram at JoeVallenWriter. And that's about it, guys. I'll see you next time on Is It Still Good?
We're the ones who are acting suspicious and paranoid. We're the